Okay, let's talk about the roundabout. You know, that circle of asphalt that's supposed to make traffic flow smoothly, but somehow ends up being a source of major anxiety for so many of us. We've all been there, right? Gripping the steering wheel, asking ourselves, am I in the right lane? Can I go now? Well, today, we're going to decode all of it, once and for all.
So let's get right to it. Why are they so confusing? It's a feeling pretty much every driver understands. That little moment of panic right before you enter the circle. Turns out that confusion isn't just in your head. For a lot of drivers, especially in places like Portugal, the chaos actually has a very specific starting point. And it's a story that's all about one single law. A law that tried to bring order to the chaos, but in doing so, created a whole new headache for an entire generation of drivers who had learned to do things a different way.
And this all led to what you could call the Great Roundabout Debate. This wasn't just a matter of a few bad drivers. Oh no. It was a fundamental disagreement about what the rules of the road actually were.
You know, one source we looked at just nails it. It says, laws exist, but what happens is that some drivers follow one set of laws and others follow, well, other, dubious ones. And that's the problem in a nutshell, isn't it? It wasn't total anarchy. It was like two different teams playing on the same field with two totally different rule books.
So to really get why the new rules were so important, we have to travel back in time. Let's take a look at the old world of roundabouts, specifically what things were like before the big change in 2014.
Okay, so get this. Before the new law, this was the move that caused almost all the drama. Just hopping into the outer lane and riding it all the way around past multiple exits. It probably felt safe for sure, but it was basically a recipe for disaster.
So this was the mindset. The law didn't say you couldn't just camp out in that outer lane. So people did. But, and this is a big but, if you were in an inner lane and actually trying to, exit the roundabout, you had to cut across the path of someone who thought they had every right to just keep on cruising. The law was just too vague, and that ambiguity was causing actual conflicts on the road.
So you can see how this was a problem. The authorities knew something had to give. They needed to create one clear, undeniable standard for everyone. And so they introduced the law that truly changed everything. And here it is, the big moment. January 1st, 2014. That's when Article 14A of the Highway Code officially became law in Portugal. This date is basically the line in the sand. It marked the end of the old, confusing ways and the beginning of a brand new, standardized approach to driving in a circle.
But you know what's interesting? Even the experts were a bit nervous. The author of our source material, a driving instructor with over 30 years on the job, he admits that he anticipated some complication for the roundabouts. He knew that changing a habit that was so deeply burned into the driving culture wasn't going to be a walk in the park.
So what did this new law actually say? Well, it all boiled down to one single core principle. The outer lane is not a scenic route anymore. It is now there for one main reason: to take the very next exit. That simple change completely flipped the entire dynamic of the roundabout.
Okay, so that's the history lesson. Cool to know, but what does it mean for you and me, today, in the real world? Let's break down exactly how you're supposed to handle a roundabout according to the rules right now.
It really just comes down to 3 simple steps. Step 1, choose your lane before you even get in. Taking the first exit, get in the right lane. Taking any other exit, use the inner lanes. Easy. Step 2, move to the outer lane to get off, but, and this is key, only after you've passed the exit right before yours. No more cutting across at the last second. And step 3, the one we all forget sometimes. Signal everything. Let people know what you're going to do.
And if you're thinking, who's going to notice? Well, your wallet might. For example, doing that old school move of circling in the outer lane to go past the first exit can hit you with a fine of up to 300 euros. The message here is crystal clear. The old way isn't just wrong anymore, it's expensive.
But look, beyond any specific law, there are some golden rules that are just timeless. Always, always check your mirrors and your blind spots. Keep your speed down. And, anticipate that other drivers might not be paying attention. And seriously, the most important rule of all, if you're ever confused or you miss your exit, just go around again.
There's absolutely no shame in taking an extra lap to do it safely. Okay, so we've got the standard roundabout figured out. But believe me, the world of traffic circles gets way, way wilder than that. Let's take a quick peek at some of the crazier variations you can find out there. For instance, take the turbo roundabout. It's a totally different beast. Instead of you having to change lanes inside the circle, the turbo roundabout has these spiral road markings that physically funnel your car from your entry lane directly to your exit lane. It basically forces you to pick your destination before you even enter, which cuts down on those risky mid-circle lane changes. Pretty smart, huh?
And then there's this monster, the legendary Magic Roundabout in Swindon, England. It is one gigantic roundabout made up of 5 smaller ones. The writer we're citing just calls it a true nightmare for Europeans. And you can see why. It looks like absolute chaos, but it's actually a pretty brilliant, if a little terrifying, solution for a really complex intersection.
All right, so we've gone from total confusion to legal clarity, from the old rules to the new ones, and we've even looked at some of the world's craziest roundabouts. So let's bring it all home. What is the one thing you really need to take away from all this?
Think about it. Laws like Article 14A, they can change. They probably will evolve over time as traffic gets smarter and cities change. So, with all that potential for change, what's the one skill that will always keep you safe on the road?
And here it is. This is the absolute bottom line. The ultimate goal, always, is to get yourself out of a jam, avoiding the accident. Rules are the blueprint, but the real skill is just being aware, anticipating what's next, and driving defensively. It doesn't matter what kind of roundabout it is or what the specific rules are. The ability to read the road and protect yourself, that's the one skill that will never, ever go out of style.